Tonight on The Wrap, a criminal investigation into Lord Mandelson over his links to Jeffrey Epstein. As new photos of him emerge from the Epstein files, he resigns from the House of Lords over claims he leaked sensitive government information to the paedophile financier. The Prime Minister says it was the right decision, but Sir Keir Starmer faces growing Tory pressure himself tonight over why he made Peter Mandelson an ambassador just over a year ago. Thames Valley Police say tonight that they are assessing a claim that Epstein sent a woman to former Prince Andrew's home in 2010. Andrew has previously denied any wrongdoing. Earlier, in a rare intervention, his younger brother urged people to remember the victims.
I think it's all really important always to remember the victims and who are the victims in all this.
Also tonight, a review finds the school at which Harvey Wilgoose was stabbed to death last year failed to investigate 130 violent incidents involving his killer. Harvey's mother says academy schools are a law unto themselves and should now be taken into government control. Plus,
I've been away.
See, that's him.
Da, 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 da.
That's him.
the lost tape giving a rare insight into Ozzy Osbourne's fight back after being fired from Black Sabbath. Well, we discuss the day's biggest stories with Rory Bremner and Jenny Kleeman. Plus, a first look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers, including all the coverage of Lord Mandelson's decision to quit the Lords. Well, hello, good evening. Jenny and Rory, welcome to both of you. And a dizzying day of developments, certainly. Lord Mandelson out of the Lords and now being investigated by police over his connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Jenny, facing some very serious questions now.
Yeah, it's potentially the biggest political corruption scandal in more than a generation. He, of course, resigned from the House of Lords today, but you have to ask, is his resignation going to be the last? Are more people going to end up losing their jobs over this?
Rory?
Yes, I think if you're Peter Mandelson, it's a good time to leave the room and make a cup of tea, because the story has grown legs, and not just those ones that were very tastefully on display in that photograph of me in my underpants.
Yes, I think we'll see those again in a moment, won't we? So Lord Mandelson's political career now seems almost certainly over as he faces that police investigation. His downfall still poses a political danger, though, to the Prime Minister. The Conservatives have just confirmed that they will attempt to force Sir Keir Starmer to publish all the documents about his decision to appoint Lord Mandelson as the UK's ambassador in Washington. Let's hear then from our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates.
Gone the first time, gone the second time, gone for good.
The Clerk of the Parliament has today received notification from Lord Mandelson of his intention to retire from the House.
Peter Mandelson has left politics and Parliament for the last time, renouncing his seat in the House of Lords rather than waiting to be kicked out. All over his repeated lack of candour about his 20-year-plus relationship with the financier and paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Are you embarrassed about Peter Mandelson's actions? Who's to blame for bringing him back?
Keir Starmer's anger heard behind these doors. Mandelson is a disgrace who let the country down, the Cabinet was told. His threat to pass a law to strip his peerage was the final straw. Fury over a relationship between Mandelson and Epstein that others were asking about in much more depth long before Keir Starmer.
In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
He was in jail at the time for soliciting prostitution from a minor.
And my knowledge of him is something that I regret. I wish I'd never met him in the first place.
But emails released by the US government over the weekend revealed there was so much more. Payments to Mandelson's husband worth thousands. There's no suggestion of wrongdoing from him. But also alleged market-sensitive intelligence passed straight to the paedophile financier within seconds of Mandelson receiving it. Condemnation from all sides.
They have made a grave error of judgment.
I think the Prime Minister himself needs to come clean and tell us what he knew and when.
It's quite outrageous and people will be quite disgusted by it.
We shouldn't have had to wait all these months before he was able to sidle out very quietly and very disgracefully and resign without being sacked.
Downing Street has already handed over details of key emails to the police. Now Scotland Yard are looking at whether the law was broken. The news that the police have launched a full-blown inquiry into Peter Mandelson will, incredibly, be welcomed in the building behind me, because they are desperate to take as tough a line as possible to insulate themselves from the massive fallout from the departure of Peter Mandelson. Because the charge that these guys are facing is as toxic as they come in politics, that they took a hear no evil, see no evil approach to appointing a man who has been a fixture of the Labour family for more than 4 decades. After Prime Minister's questions, the Tories will try and force the disclosure of vetting documents prepared before Mandelson's appointment, dividing Labour MPs from number 10 in the process. The embarrassment continues. Sam Coates, Sky News, Westminster.
Well, John Craig, our chief political correspondent, joined us too. Come to you in just a moment, because there's 3 elements here, aren't there? It's the criminal investigation now been launched. It is the how and the why he was given the job of UK ambassador, which we'll come to with you in a moment, and also his role in the House of Lords, which he answered himself by quitting, did he not? But Jenny, the criminal investigation, first of all, after those allegations that he leaked sensitive information, which has truly upset many members of that then Labour government.
Yes, and also people of all political persuasions from across the House. He is potentially facing charges. The Met is investigating whether or not he can be charged with misconduct in public office, which is a quite strange and nebulous charge. It's the sort of thing that when prison officers have affairs with prisoners, that's what they get charged with. But the essential question is that he leaked market-sensitive, highly confidential information to the paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. And this is information that he had because he was a member of the cabinet. He was business secretary at a time after Epstein had been convicted. He was getting hold of information and sending it very, very quickly, all the while accepting money from Jeffrey Epstein. So potentially this looks very, very serious indeed. I can't think of another situation where there has been an allegation of political corruption like this.
Yes, he's denied wrongdoing. He's spoken to the Times as well, obviously, hasn't he? And, you know, suggests he was too trusting. But what did you...
Well, it was a breach of trust not just to the country, but also to Gordon Brown, who, remember, I mean, Mandelson had resigned twice before this. So he'd already resigned twice, and Gordon Brown then had to make him appear to become business secretary. I bet he wished he made him disappear. But this charge of misconduct in public office, actually the maximum sentence is life imprisonment. Though in Mandelson's case, it probably needs to be 9 lives because he's used up about 4. But this is probably the end, I would have thought.
Well, indeed so. So talk us through what's going to happen tomorrow, because it's all about now whether or not he should have been given the job of ambassador to Washington, whether the right questions were asked at the time, given people knew of his association with Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, the Tories are starting to behave like a proper opposition. What they're going to do, it's one of their opposition days tomorrow, and as Sam was saying, after Prime Minister's questions, they're going to propose a motion. It's in the jargon, it's called a humble address. Now, if you're one of those anoraks, and you probably are, that remembers those Brexit debates, Labour were quite successful in using those with some success. So, basically, they're demanding release of all the papers, emails, phone records, the whole lot, that led to the appointment of Mandelson as ambassador. And it's a paper trail, if you like. Now, question is, how will the government respond? Well, I can tell you what the government are doing. They're going to put down an amendment. So the Tories have just announced they're going to do this, but the government has already said they're going to put down an amendment which will say, OK, yes, except for papers prejudicial to UK national security or international relations. Well, they can probably argue there's quite a lot of those. But I interviewed a Labour rebel tonight, Richard Bergen, who said, well, I'm prepared to vote against the government if they do oppose it. I mean, his argument is that it'd be crazy to oppose this. And I think that's right, actually, because the government would look dreadful if they opposed the release of all these documents. And remember, the Prime Minister said at Cabinet he'd let the country down. And I think for the government to try and mount what Kemi Badenoch was calling tonight a cover-up would look dreadful. So I think what will happen is the government will say, OK, you can have the papers, but not these national security details and so on.
So the point, presumably, from the Conservatives is to go after Sir Keir Starmer and his decision to appoint, and indeed Morgan McSweeney, Chief of Staff,
yes,
who was supposed to be in daily contact with the then Lord Mandelson, if I can call it that. So, Jenny, just quickly, how much trouble do you think... I know you want to come in.
I was going to tell you about McSweeney, but go on.
You know, how much trouble do you think the Prime Minister is in over this now?
I think he's in an enormous amount of trouble. I think probably Morgan McSweeney is in more trouble, and he is perhaps more likely to be the fall guy in the first instance. But that doesn't mean that Keir Starmer is safe. He is already in a position where he was in a difficult position. His authority was being challenged. Something like this could be really, really deadly for him, because the whole question is what vetting procedures were in place, how much were they prepared to risk for somebody who had the right kind of manner to get on with Donald Trump? And that's the real question here. They thought that he would be a good thing.
Yes. John, be patient. I'm going to get to Rory too. Oh, did you see? He opened his mouth. Because I know you've got something specific on this,
no,
haven't
as
you?
you were saying, I mean, he had the qualities that were needed, because, I mean, he's a schmoozer, he's an operator, so it was a good, good office for him to take. But, I mean, obviously, Labour wanted to have a political appointee, because they had a very good ambassador already in Karen Pierce, who they got rid of to bring in a political appointment. Various names were brought forward: David Miliband, Baroness Ashton, Baroness Amos, and then Peter Mandelson comes into the ring, and it's such a Mandelsonian twist of Mandelson and McSweeney. All of a sudden, this article appears in the Times, Stephen Swinford, saying, "Oh, Peter Mandelson's been appointed. He is now the ambassador," and this gets back to, and they say, "Hang on, he hasn't been approved yet. They haven't actually gone through the whole process. They go through that process of what's it called, the agrément, before ambassadors are appointed." Yeah. And they say, "Well, it's in the papers. It's a done deal. It's a fait accompli." It's a very, very Mandelsonian twist.
John, your time has come.
I was only going to say about McSweeney, Kemi Badenoch has said tonight, Morgan McSweeney, a close protégé of Peter Mandelson, was involved in the vetting. Morgan McSweeney is a man whose fingerprints are all over this embarrassment. So the Tories will probably target him. I agree, I think he may be the fall guy, the scapegoat at some point. I mean, you think back when they've become an embarrassment, Alistair Campbell, Andy Coulson, Dominic Cummings, they're out the door, and an easy scapegoat. But, of course, well, there are those who say that if you get rid of McSweeney, then the Prime Minister won't last much longer.
And isn't there also his fingerprints are all over Labour's victory? A lot of people hold him responsible for
and
that
the blunders,
well.
though.
And the blunders as well.
I mean, getting rid of Sue Gray doesn't look so clever now, does it?
It feels like a very, very long time ago, doesn't it?
Not that long ago.
Yes, well, indeed so. In terms of what happens next, then, does it all go a bit dark once the criminal investigation gets underway? Do you think, in terms of the politics of this, or can they still pursue these? Why did he become UK ambassador line?
Well, the Tories will turn up the heat as well. As Sam says, Prime Minister's questions tomorrow as well. Badenoch will go on the attack. They could keep this up for months and months and months. They don't have to sort of interfere with the criminal case. I mean, the police are only beginning their investigation. I have to say, actually, they were very quick, weren't they? It was yesterday that Stephen Flynn, who was on Sky News tonight, was writing to the Met Commissioner, Rory, saying, come on, have an investigation. Within 24 hours, they said, yep, right. Gordon Brown, of course, who's furious, has jumped in and handed over lots of documents and so on. So has the Cabinet Office. So the government and the former Prime Minister are encouraging this police investigation. But, of course, if it all goes to trial, that could all be very messy, couldn't it?
So, I mean, many people are asking, why is it Britons that are being investigated here and not the Americans? Where are the Americans in this, Rory?
Well, it is interesting. I mean, because I think this is a story that keeps on giving. I think there are layer after layer. We've had a lot of the salacious stuff. And let's not forget, of course, at the heart of this are the victims themselves. And I think, actually, Prince Edward mentioned those today because, these poor young women who were trafficked, that's at the heart of it. So we've had the salaciousness. Now we've got the Peter Mandelson thing. I think this is going to get deeper and deeper. I think it's going to end up with Russia as well, because Putin has mentioned, I think, 1,000 times. Right, yeah. There are 1,000 documents relating to Putin, 10,000 documents relating to Russia. And we've got all these names that are here. We've got Bill Gates, Peter Thiel, the boss of Palantir. And I think this is going to go on. And this is, as you rightly said, Valerie, this is the biggest political scandal that we've in recent memory.
Yes, and has to say at this point, appearing in the Epstein files does not, prove any wrongdoing whatsoever.
No.
Of course.
And where's all the Donald Trump stuff as well? I mean, that seems to be, it's played down. Although he had a name for Peter Mandelson, by the way. Did you know what he called him? He called him Sneaky Pete. Sneaky Pete. So he knew him very, very well. And that's who he was,
Very interesting. So, I mean, I know you've written about this already. Just a scandal too far for Mandelson to survive. Rory talking about his 9 lives, but he's certainly had a few, hasn't he?
Oh, yes. I mean, he was business secretary when he took that loan from Geoffrey Robinson, had to go over that, didn't tell the Building Society against the law. Second time, it was a visa application by an Indian businessman. And then... I mean, what this, of course, has reminded people. People are saying, criticising Keir Starmer's judgment. Some people are saying, hey, what about Gordon Brown bringing Peter Mandelson back into the government in 2009, I think it was?
I just think it's very funny that Keir Starmer said it's wrong to prejudge somebody simply on the basis of everything they've ever said and everything they've ever done. He knew what he was getting, surely.
Yeah.
But I think he took his assurances at face value.
I mean, there is some gloating going on among some senior Labour politicians. I mean, one cabinet minister said to me yesterday, who'd have thought it, eh?
Yeah, I think I read he was awarded his peerage in 2008 in order to come back in and be
2008,
both business secretary and de facto prime minister. And this was a man absolutely senior in that Gordon Brown administration who was shipping out information as soon as he
And of course,
the allegation goes in the document.
2008 was the year when David Miliband almost made a move against Gordon Brown. He wrote an article in The Guardian which was highly critical, and then Gordon Brown, I don't know, well, of course, it all went wrong for Brown. I know this is history and everything, when he didn't have that election in 2007.
Actually, to be fair, he wasn't that bad as business secretary, and actually some of the things he was doing as ambassador was OK, but he had that side to him always at Mandelson. He just couldn't help himself.
But that's
or rather, he could help himself.
But surely that is because he is one of those people that just loves to be close to power and loves to be close to money and is flattered by the attention of rich and powerful people.
Yes, indeed. Yes, we've got no problem with people becoming filthy rich, I think he said, didn't he?
As long as they pay their taxes.
Well done, both of you. Finished my quotes. And we will talk about power, influence and indeed Putin in our 11 o'clock hour as well. It is, of course, making the front pages of most of the newspapers. The Metro, for example, going with the headline, "Oh Lord," and we will bring you a first look at all the front pages from 10:30 this evening. So, Thames Valley Police have said tonight that they are assessing a claim that a woman was sent to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's home in Windsor by Jeffrey Epstein in 2010. A lawyer representing the woman has told the BBC that the encounter allegedly took place at Royal Lodge, the former Duke's residence at the time, when the woman was then in her 20s. Andrew has not commented on the latest claims, but has previously denied any wrongdoing related to Jeffrey Epstein. Well, earlier, Jenny, I think you mentioned this, Andrew's brother Edward was drawn into the conversation for the first time since the latest batch of Epstein files were released. Our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, has more.
They have been trying to stop Andrew from being a distraction. That, it seems, is impossible.
It's all really important always to remember the victims. And who are the victims in all this?
Absolutely.
A lot of victims in this.
Andrew's younger brother, Edward, forced to face questions during his official trip to Dubai. Sticking, it would seem, to the official line after this statement in October, which said the King and Queen's thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. Survivor Lisa Phillips claims that she met Andrew briefly on Epstein's Island in the Caribbean.
That's time for him to clear his name. I think just knowing from that time frame, I don't know anything about Mandelson, but just knowing from that time frame about Andrew, that he has some explaining to do. So I would be the first person there to want to hear that testimony.
Now, while Andrew and Sarah Ferguson have continuously denied any wrongdoing, with Sarah also suggesting she was being blackmailed by Epstein, this latest release of files have again given us a bigger picture of the relationship between the Yorks and Epstein, and the fact it continued well after his conviction of those paedophile charges. One of the latest emails also shows that Sarah took her daughters Beatrice and Eugenie to Miami to see Epstein 5 days after he was released from jail. In one email from the 24th of July 2009, Leslie Groff, who's Epstein's assistant, writes to him saying, regarding the flights for the Duchess and the girls from Heathrow to Miami and from New York to Heathrow, we were able to get the girls on economy round trip and the Duchess on business round trip. Do I have your permission to purchase these tickets? 3 days later, on the 27th of July, Sarah Ferguson emails Epstein saying, "What address should we come to? It'll be myself, Beatrice and Eugenie. Are we having lunch?" To which Epstein replies, "Yes, vegetable lasagna or anything else you'd like. Chef here from Paris." All this extra information has led to more demands for both Sarah and Andrew to share what they saw or knew.
Probably isn't strictly a legal question because the allegations that are coming out are linked to the Epstein papers. Whether there is enough in there to substantiate any criminal allegations against them, it's a none at this point. But there's also the reputational issues. They may want to cooperate. They may see it as their duty if they can shed any light on what's happened, but they would have to get some more information about what it is they're being asked to either answer questions on or give evidence about.
The call's just growing for them to ultimately think of the victims. A message, it seems, now repeated by Andrew's own brother, aware of the potential damage that this scandal is doing to his own family. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.
So, Rory, Thames Valley Police assessing that information then about whether Epstein sent a woman to Royal Lodge. But this is now very difficult, as we saw with Prince Edward, for the royal family to escape this and not be questioned about it.
I mean, I think that's why they acted so last year as they did,
Yes.
and they sort of stripped him of his titles. And I think.
Do you think they knew what was coming?
Well, I think they might have suspected, but also I think they're just thoroughly exasperated with it. And I think the king wanted to distance himself as much as possible from it. And I think Edward today has rightly brought it back to the victims. But it's just, I mean, we must all be exasperated. I mean, you keep going back to that interview with Emily Maitlis when she said, do you regret your association with Jeffrey Epstein? And he went, I mean, we are shouting at the television, say, yes, and I want to do something about it now. But it's just that extraordinary, lack of self-awareness, unless he's afraid that if he does tell what he knows, that there are more powerful people still out there that might come for him. You never know that. I mean, this is such a deep and dark story, but at the heart of this particular part of it is just this extraordinary man who seems to be in denial.
Sarah Ferguson as well mentioned a number of times more information today about her. For example, she took her girls to meet Epstein just 5 days after he was released from jail in July 2009. He, of course, had been convicted of soliciting a child for prostitution. So these were already serious allegations even then. She asked to be employed by him.
Yes.
She asked at one point to marry him.
Several times.
Presumably jokingly, said, "You're the brother I always wanted," thanked him, for complimenting her in front of her girls. I mean, some of it feels quite a desperate attempt.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe to get money out of him or friendship or whatever.
It's repulsive. She was, I mean, it's totally creepy. You're my brother. I want to marry you. Please pay for my flights. I would like to go first class, and the girls can go in club. And she's another person who feels entitled, clearly, to a certain kind of lifestyle that she wasn't able to fund herself, and she clearly thought that he would be able to help her fund it. It's grotesque, the things that have come out about Sarah Ferguson. I would say with regards to Edward and his message today, he's right that we should be thinking about the victims. It's clearly an echo of what was said by the king when Andrew had his titles removed, and clearly they have decided to be on message after Andrew was so terribly not on message. But one of the things, and maybe I'm being unfair, maybe I'm being cynical here, but he did say, we've got to think about the victims, and there are a lot of victims in this. I really hope that there isn't part of the royal family that feels that they are being unfairly victimised by their association with Epstein. Meanwhile, the victims continue to be victimised. They have said that there have been details leaked about them, pictures, names, email addresses, because in this latest disclosure, it wasn't redacted properly. Of course, we need to explore the web of associations of powerful people who were metaphorically in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. But we shouldn't forget that he was a paedophile and he did terrible things to people whose lives were ruined and continue to be ruined by this.
OK, both of you...
Didn't Sarah Ferguson, she took her daughters over to 5 days after he'd been released from prison. I mean, that's just quite extraordinary.
Absolutely. Well, we will look further, as I said, about what the Polish Prime Minister has said today, launching an investigation into possible connections to the KGB at 11, and no doubt keep abreast of the latest that are being released from those that 3 million tranche of Epstein files. Now, the parents of Harvey Wilgoose say he would still be alive if his school had acted on 130 incidents involving his killer. Harvey, who was 15, was stabbed outside the canteen at All Saints Catholic High School in Sheffield last year by a fellow pupil. We'll take a look at this then from our North of England correspondent, Katerina Vitozzi.
Seeing black and white, the chances they had to step in to protect our boy is something that nobody should be going through.
Missed opportunities and serious failings. A new review into the death of Harvey Wilgoose, the schoolboy stabbed in a corridor by a fellow pupil, has revealed numerous times when his school could have done more to protect him. Here's what we know.
15-year-old Harvey was killed by Umar Khan, also 15, on the 3rd of February 2025. This is CCTV from that day. Khan stabbed Harvey with a 13-centimetre hunting knife that he had brought with him into school that day. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison.
But a new independent review commissioned by Harvey's school, All Saints Catholic High School, showed that opportunities to identify Khan as a risk actually happened much earlier.
Umar Khan moved to All Saints in spring 2024, but 130 incidents of his violent and weapons-related behaviour from his previous school were not reviewed or acted upon at All Saints. In October, pupils reported Khan had a knife and BB gun on a school trip. He was searched, but there was no other follow-up. There was no follow-up in December either, when an axe was found in his school bag at home. And no one searched Khan on the day that he killed Harvey, despite a fresh knife allegation against him.
To see in black and white the chances they had to step in, the signs that they were missed, and how many opportunities that there was to protect our boy is something that nobody should be going through. But more than anything, I'm determined that no other family should be sitting in court listening to how their child was killed.
The CEO of St Clair Catholic Multi-Academy Trust, which runs this school, says it's clear the report identified areas for improvement, that it's already implemented robust measures and will continue to take action. The Department for Education told us that it too will reflect on the report's findings and ask all schools to do the same so that no pupil is put in harm's way.
I mean, Rory, it's just so devastating, isn't it? And you wonder how much communication there is between schools. So if a child is moved or excluded because of violence, you know, what is shared with another school to protect the pupils at the new school?
It's just heartbreaking, isn't it? And I mean, you think that poor family... we do get sort of case after case when they think, well, so many signs were missed, and this looks like a particularly horrible thing to go through. Yes. I mean, for so many chances to have been missed. What can you say?
Yeah, 130 incidences, an axe, a BB gun, a knife. You know, schools seem ill-equipped to deal with difficult and clearly dangerous pupils.
Yes, but this is not a question of resources. This is a question of information not being shared between schools. And, you know, I was thinking about Axel Rudiker-Barner and his school history. We should learn from the fact that there are some individuals who are incredibly dangerous. All the signs were there with this person. And I was thinking before, there is probably nothing worse as a parent than losing a child, but actually there is something worse, which is that learning that it was completely avoidable. I can't imagine how these parents are feeling. My heart goes out to them.
Indeed.
And you always say, yes, as they will say that no other parent should go through that. I mean, the last week, when some statistics were released that said that actually, I think the homicides were at their lowest since 1977, and actually knife crime has come down 23%. So somewhere lessons are being learned. There's some, because it's easy to think that, you know, that it is worse than it's ever been. Somewhere, some things are being picked up, but it's too late for that poor family.
Rory, Jenny, stay there. Lots more still to come in the next part of our programme, including we will be taking a first look at what is making the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. Back in a moment.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you.
So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual. Mornings with Richard and Frost.
Let's crack on. Let's get started.
Well, let's just bring you some breaking news concerning Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It is our understanding that he has now left Royal Lodge. We know it had been in the offing for some time. Confirmation that that has now happened. He is now a resident of Norfolk. It is our understanding that this is the primary phase of a move that may take a period of time. He's now at a house on the Sandringham estate, which is seen as temporary accommodation. There will be a further move in the coming months, we understand, once final arrangements have been made. And this, Jenny, is the difference between a property that is privately owned by the royal family and that is funded by the state.
Yes, and those differences matter. They are looking after him as a member of their family rather than expecting the public purse to cover his expenses. But you do have to ask what will be enough, actually. He's still going to be living in a sizable property. More allegations have emerged tonight that are being investigated. The royal family is doing whatever they can to distance themselves from him, but he is nonetheless still related to him, to them, and they are trying to take care of him, but it's a difficult balance.
Yes, let's bring in our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, who joins us now. So, Rhiannon, what have you learnt about this move, then, for the person formerly Prince Andrew?
So, of course, over the last few days, we have seen various pictures of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It appears spending his final days, really, enjoying the Windsor estate, out on his horse, waving to crowds from his car. But, yeah, I have had it confirmed that his move from Royal Lodge has taken place, and that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is now a resident of Norfolk. Of course, we knew that this was coming. It was back at the end of October that it was confirmed that the King had firstly stripped him of all of his titles, but also had decided, look, enough was enough, and the optics of him living on the Windsor estate had just become too much, and it was time for him to move out of that large property on the Windsor estate. Now, the palace, it has to be said, they will constantly say they no longer speak on behalf of Andrew. He is no longer a working royal. But it is understood from palace sources that what they're seeing this as is really sort of a primary phase of a move that may take some period of time. Certainly from conversations I've had, security is a really big issue that they're having to look very seriously at in terms of his accommodation on the Norfolk Sandringham estate. In terms of where he's moved now, you won't be surprised they aren't confirming exactly where he's gone to, but the property he's first gone to now, I'm told, is going to be sort of temporary arrangement for now, and then there'll be a further move in the coming months once all those final arrangements or final renovations are made. Of course, there is lots of discussion about the fact that that property is going to be Marsh Farm, which is close to the village of Wolferton, where actually the King was seen in the last couple of weeks attending a church service alongside the Archbishop of Canterbury. So, yeah, Andrew will be right there in the middle of the Norfolk community. Has to be said, Norfolk, that area, they are normally very protective of the royal family. They really see them as neighbours. They don't like to talk about them being there. They're very protective of them. It's going to be interesting to see how they feel about Andrew now living in their midst.
Indeed so. Rhiannon, thanks very much indeed. And Rory, we've become used to seeing pictures of Andrew riding around Windsor Great Park, but there were questions. Why did he need to be living in this, 30-room, 7-bedroom lodge? This is all part of the steps of his removal from public life and indeed from public view as well.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it seems to have taken quite a lot of time, but it is, it's... it's things that are stripped away from him more and more. It's like he's falling down the shame tree and every branch is giving way, really.
And this is part of his status, isn't it, as the... the man who was once second in line to the throne.
I'm sure he has been bred to feel entitled to this lifestyle, and it will be a terrible shock to him that he is no longer entitled to it. But that is the way the cookie crumbles, I have to say, particularly if you take liberties with all the privileges that you happen to be born into. But, the reason why he lived there is because everybody in that family is used to a certain kind of life, and anything else would have felt like an affront to him.
I mean, you do wonder a little bit, though, about his mental health, what state that must be. But he doesn't seem to have, at any stage, been able to see beyond his own world and reached out and said, there's something that I can still do about this, even at this late stage. And that's the thing. But heaven knows what's going on in his mind.
Remarkably unself-aware, that's the thing. That's always been the thing.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at tomorrow's newspapers then, shall we? Many of them, of course, dominated by Lord Mandelson, as was. He's, of course, resigned from the House of Lords. So no surprise then that those revelations from the Epstein files on all of tomorrow's front pages. Starting then with the Daily Telegraph, as you can see, another photograph of Lord Mandelson with a woman. Gordon Brown accuses Number 10 of a cover-up over Lord Mandelson's leaked emails to Epstein. The Financial Times carries news that the Metropolitan Police is launching a full criminal investigation into Peter Mandelson over allegations of misconduct in public office. It's that story in the middle of that page there, as you can see. Met launches criminal inquiry. The Guardian also leads on the Met Police investigation into Mandelson, allegedly leaking Downing Street emails and market-sensitive information to Epstein. Same story for The Eye. Police investigate Mandelson after Number 10 hands over an Epstein dossier. Daily Mail reports the criminal investigation follows more damning revelations, while the Tory leader piles pressure on the Prime Minister. Evidence that damns Labour's Dark Lord is their headline. And the Metro goes with the Mandelson stepping down from the House of Lords before the government brings in legislation to strip him of his title, the headline, "Oh Lord." Daily Star says Peter Mandelson has let the country down. The Express leads on Prince Edward, urging people to remember the victims of paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. While The Sun reports Andrew Mountbatten Windsor left Royal Lodge in the night alongside Mandelson's resignation. They've gone with the headline, Princes of Darkness. Jenny, it's a strong thought, isn't it?
Yes, and what's so interesting, actually, is with that headline, Princes of Darkness, is both of them have lost their titles because of their associations with Epstein. But yes, it's rare that we get a story that has been running for a few days that remains on the front of every single paper, including The Star. It's so shocking. The photographs that are emerging, the photograph, this one here on the front of the Daily Telegraph, it looks like he's getting a foot massage. Some poor woman is taking Mandelson's sock off in this picture. It just goes, these revelations just keep coming. They are disgusting and repulsive. And those are just the pictures. When you actually get down to the details of all of this, it is fundamentally an enormous scandal, potentially, in terms of what he was doing with market-sensitive information, giving it to Jeffrey Epstein, who was in a position to tell other people who could make a lot of money out of it.
And Gordon Brown was particularly exercised about this, as we were just saying earlier, that he was the one, having already witnessed 2 resignations by Peter Mandelson, that gave him a third chance by putting him in the House of Lords so he could be business secretary. Something which, as I said, he had some skill at, but nevertheless, Brown gave him that opportunity, and his reward was. It's the worst thing that a minister can do, isn't it? I mean, to just be leaking market sensitive. It's just the most egregious.
And for what? And for what? Because the money.
Criminally at this point, because a criminal investigation is underway. But
so far in this disclosure has revealed allegedly a payment of $75,000 to Peter Mandelson, which he says he has no recollection of.
No record of it. No recollection.
I would love to be wealthy enough to just have money that I can't remember that amount of money.
Which £75,000 was
Which one was it?
It's very, very
But,
hard
that's not very much for your honour, for betraying your country, which is what these allegations would mean. The UK economy was in a perilous state at this point when he was supposedly passing on this information. So he's pretty cheap, Peter Mandelson, if these allegations prove to be true.
We'll keep talking about that, but let's move on for the moment to another story on the front page of The Telegraph, right at the bottom there, which is what to do about drink driving limits. And who has spoken out about this, then?
Well, guess who? It's Nigel Farage, who seems impossible for him to get to the end of a sentence without laughing. I don't know why it is, but today he's saying that the drink driving limit should be kept as it is, and he said that Keir Starmer would be well advised to keep well away from it. And in Scotland, it's very, very low indeed. And so, I mean, I don't think people can go out to see friends, for example, not only because it's the next day as well if they're breathalyzed, but I mean, they're low for a reason. And I think, like a lot of things, I think it's perhaps best to be guided by the statistics.
Except country pubs go, if you can't come and have a pint, then who's going to come? And because you drive further for a country pub.
You can take taxis. Maybe that's a London perspective.
I'm not sure you can even get taxis, can you? That's the thing.
Farage is framing this as another part of the kind of attack on pubs. And this is to do with all the different things with rates, that pubs have been really suffering at the moment. Farage has always wanted to be, on the side of the man who likes a pint. But yes, we do have to look at what are the reasons for changing things, what makes things safer. And I think it should be a cultural thing that you just don't. You can go to the pub and have a soft drink and take a carload of people who are drinking
or
with
an
you.
alcohol-free.
But you know what? I mean, once you start on alcohol-free drink, there's such variety. But I mean, Guinness, other stouts are available, but Zero Guinness is. I mean, they're talking about is it outselling, but they're making it as fast as they can because it's the demand, and there's so many alcohol-free gins, and it's a bit like when they stop smoking in pubs and suddenly your clothes are free. There's a lot of alcohol-free that tastes just as good, and you just don't. It doesn't.
It was the best PR moment in the world when Guinness said they couldn't keep up with demand for their zero alcohol. Front of the FT now. This is another story about Elon Musk. Tell us about the SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket, which lifts off in the picture.
Well, the picture is slightly different from the story, which is the story is to do with... well, Elon Musk is in lots of different news stories today, but he is combining his XAI company, which is valued at $250 billion, with SpaceX, which is valued at, I think it's $1 trillion, making it one of the most valuable the most valuable company in the world. Elon Musk has lots of companies. He has Neuralink, which is putting chips in people's brains. He has the Boring Company, which is making underground tunnels. He has Tesla, of course, which is making cars. And he had this AI company and now rockets, but he's putting them together.
I'm exhausted just listening to this.
And he has Grok, which is making 23 million sexualised images, which is being currently investigated by the Information Commissioner's office.
Yeah, and the European Union, to be fair, as well, also announced today. Oh, we were going to do that story. I'm glad you mentioned it, actually.
Grok, yeah. Actually, Peter Mandelson could claim the underpants shot was, no, that's Grok. I was never there.
That's your best suggestion so far tonight.
I certainly had my clothes on.
Putin has resumed attacks on Kyiv after a brief hiatus because of extremely cold temperatures, with more talks expected. But, I mean, this is just so depressing and miserable, isn't it? Again, it's on energy infrastructure, and it's midwinter, obviously.
It's -20 in Ukraine.
Yeah, I did a show up in Macclesfield earlier on in the week. They're in Macclesfield Ukrainian aid, and they're taking convoys out, they're taking lorries out, they're adapting vehicles to go out as medivac ambulances, essentially. And they're living in those tower blocks in Kyiv, in tents. Inside those tower blocks to keep warm, and warming up rubble bricks in the street, heating those up and taking them into the houses to keep heat. It's unimaginable, and it's brutal what Putin is doing to Ukraine. And at least Macclesfield Ukrainian Aid is one of the charities that's able to help by getting convoys, and they're out there this next week taking more adapted ambulances and convoys of mattresses and as much as they can.
Well done. Good work, certainly. We will take a look at more of the newspapers after this short break. There's a fresh look to your news from 10 on Sky News.
It's a new show called The Wrap, every night of the week.
We'll still bring you the day's biggest stories,
but with more lively debate,
more in-depth commentary,
and more of what you need to know.
Plus a look at what's making tomorrow's headlines.
The Wrap.
Everything wrapped up for you from 10 on Sky News.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling. War, unrest, revolutions.
It's not his country, it's ours.
They have succeeded for the first time in their country's history in removing a leader from power.
No freedom!
Sky News, the full story first. There was fighting here, but there's clearly now a lull, and they're using it to bring up more ammunition. This is a mass exodus in which Russia is hemorrhaging some of its brightest and its best. According to the local weather channel, there have been more than 2,500 lightning strikes and flash flooding, all on top of this week's lethal tornado. What stays with you most in this job is some of the people you meet. What is your worst fear about what the Russians want to do to the children?
They're just boosting demographics by stealing young people.
Would you like to take the opportunity, Mr. President, on Sky News to invite Barack Obama to come here? Mr. Trump, are you running for president? Can you confirm it?
We're going to take a look, a very serious look.
On that day, we saw your fighters killing women, killing children. Was that a mistake? Did you go too far? You couldn't control your fighters? The full force of the state is being used to crush any protest. Free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in. Another alarm. The mood here is jittery and nervous. We're seeing the world get more and more divided, and it's our job to try to make sense of it all.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Well, we are continuing our closer look at what is making tomorrow's newspapers and delving inside the papers right now. Jenny, why don't you pick up on this one? It's in the Metro. Iranian women, it says, pose for photographs after a motorcycle training session in Tehran because they've lifted the ban on issuing licences to females for the first time since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. I mean, extraordinary that somebody could find a good news story coming out of Tehran right now.
Yes, and also extraordinary, I think, that the Metro would publish it like this at a time when we know that tens of thousands of people are being massacred by the regime.
Or have been, because I think they're not on the streets now.
No, but we don't know the full number of people who have been killed since the beginning of the year for protesting. But we know that it is many, many thousands. The regime itself is admitting it is many, many thousands. And yet, this picture, where we're all supposed to say, oh, good news, women are allowed to ride bicycles in Tehran for the first time since 1979, I think this will be cold comfort for people in Iran, and I think it's extraordinary, actually, that this picture can be published. It's a bit of propaganda.
Yeah, and it comes after an Iranian drone was shot down, we know, by the US aircraft carrier strike group. The Americans say it was flying aggressively. The Iranians tonight seem to be suggesting that they'd lost contact with it. But this, you know, the scene around Iran it's a fraught.
It's like a standoff. Well, I think Trump is preparing for Operation Midnight Hammer 2, because remember, we took out their entire nuclear capacity last time, and now we're going to do it again, because it turned out they didn't actually take out the entire nuclear capability of Iran. But there's a beautiful, great big armadillo floating towards Tehran. So, yeah, we shouldn't laugh because, as you said, I mean, it's the savagery of that particular put-down in Tehran just a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, they've had four attempts somehow, and each one has been brutally put down. And Trump, having said, you know, help is on the way. And, you know, each time we have this talk, don't we, about Taco, Trump always chickens out. And maybe this time he's going to follow through.
But he says help is on the way. He doesn't say what the help is. And then all of a sudden, he seems to be able to pivot to, we're going to take out their nuclear programme, because, of course, that's going to help the protesters, isn't it? I mean,
exactly.
My heart goes out to them.
Well, yeah, or regime change, so that's very hard because, you know, it's just like... And you've got the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and until they turn on the people, until they turn, rather, on the regime, it's going to be extremely difficult.
Well, they may not, but the Iranian army might. To the Times now. I found myself staring at you then because
I know,
literally your hair was changing and you were becoming all orange as you were speaking. It was like a very odd sensation, to be honest with you.
It's very
too realistic. Anyway, let's go to the Times, which is a young lad in Australia, a teenager, called superhuman because he swam for 4 hours through, as the paper says, shark-infested waters to save his family that were swept out to sea on their paddleboards. Amazing.
Amazing story. So this kid, they were swept out, him, his mum and his 2 younger siblings. His mum thought they were all going to die, sent him to go back. He was in a kayak. The kayak got full of water, so he swam, and then his life jacket was impeding him, so he took his life jacket off. There's going to be a movie made about this boy. He's a hero.
Look at that, look at that. I mean,
incredible.
It's Australia, you know, it's not benign off Brighton, is it? Let's be honest about it.
He apparently he was sort of telling himself stories, thinking about Thomas the Tank Engine, doing all these mind games so that he could survive. Extraordinary.
But also extraordinary. I mean, if you look up the stats, well-trained and competitive teenagers can swim 1 to 5 kilometres, and that's on flat water. This is in the sea with the waves and the current and the cold, and he swam 4 kilometres. And not only that, once he got to the shore, and he said he collapsed on the beach, and he then had to run 2 kilometres to get to... I mean, it's like a triathlon. But, I mean, phenomenal. To swim 4 kilometres and run 2 kilometres. I mean, it's absolutely... It defies any kind of...
Should we have a listen to him?
Yeah, let's hear it.
To be fair, his mum has said he doesn't have to do the school swimming competition. But anyway, this is Austin.
His mum sounds Irish. Really, her accent.
I was very puffed out, but I couldn't feel how tired I was. I don't know, I was more thinking of a lot of things that, you know, was happening in my life. I think at one point I was thinking of Thomas the Tank Engine. You know, trying to get the happiest things in my head, trying to make it through. Like, not the bad things that will distract me and bring me out further. And at this time, you know, the waves are massive and I had no life jacket on.
You had me a shark-infested, I think, but anyway,
It's true about the human capacity in extreme situations like that. I mean, he's 13, there's no experience there, but somehow that survival...
It made me think about Touching the Void, which is a story about a mountaineer, a man who is climbing a mountain who gets stuck down a crevasse with a broken leg, who, by the power of his own mental will, manages to crawl out and sort of, you know, playing mind games with himself in order to do it. It is incredible. Human beings are incredible.
Such a clever thing, because it wouldn't teach you to think about happy things or think about Thomas the Tank Engine. That's in no manual. If you're stuck swimming 4 kilometres...
We've run out of time. Luckily, you're back in the next hour. We'll have all the top stories next hour.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Rory and Frost.
Let's crack on.
Let's get started.
Breaking news on the Wrap. The former Prince Andrew leaves Royal Lodge in Windsor for good. As he takes up residence in Sandringham, Thames Valley Police say tonight that they are assessing a claim that Jeffrey Epstein sent a woman to Andrew's home in 2010. Andrew has previously denied any wrongdoing. Meantime, police open a criminal investigation into Lord Mandelson. He resigns from the House of Lords over claims that he leaked sensitive government information to the paedophile financier. The Prime Minister says it was the right decision, but Sir Keir Starmer faces growing Tory pressure himself tonight over why he hired Mandelson. Plus, ministers unveil a new pledge that 3/4 of people diagnosed with cancer will be free of the disease or living well by 2035. But can the NHS really ramp up treatment in time? And the 13-year-old boy praised as a hero for swimming for 4 hours to save his family, stranded off the coast of Western Australia. We discuss the day's biggest stories with Rory Bremner and Jenny Kleeman. Plus, a first look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers, including, of course, all the coverage of Lord Mandelson's decision to quit the House of Lords. Hello, good evening to you. And Jenny and Rory, thank you both for joining us tonight. In breaking news, then, it's been confirmed Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has moved out of Royal Lodge and is now a resident of Norfolk. Rory, it continues his removal from public life, does it not?
It does. It's another step, as I said, down the shame tree. You wonder where it goes from here. At some stage, surely, you know, he must say, having had time to reflect. But it's always no comment. It's always no comment. No comment. He may very well be advised by lawyers to do that. But I think, surely, I mean, even Mandelson, when he began his first thing, he said, "I have no need to apologise." But the very next day, he realised that there were real victims to this story, and not just people whose pride had been slightly put out of joint. And Mandelson was able to issue some kind of apology, but we just had nothing. Just had nothing, and I think, you know, that it astounds me.
Jenny.
Well, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein has already caused 2 really big public figures to lose their titles, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Peter Mandelson, who is still officially allowed to use the title Lord, even though he's resigned from the House of Lords. You do have to ask, where is it going to stop? Are more people going to lose their jobs, lose their status because of him?
And as he said, what about America? I mean, this is the British people. We haven't heard about many names in America.
Yes.
One in particular, a lot of redaction.
OK, well, as we heard the news about Andrew moving from Windsor, we heard more from Thames Valley Police, who said tonight that they are assessing a claim that a woman was sent to Andrew's home in Windsor by Jeffrey Epstein back in 2010. Andrew has not commented on the latest claims, but has previously denied any wrongdoing related to Epstein. Well, let's bring in now our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills. So what are you hearing about this move from the 30-room plus Royal Lodge, then, Rhiannon?
So we have known for a few months now that it wasn't if he was going to move, it was when. But certainly the palace didn't want to guide us on when exactly that process was going to begin. But it appears it has happened. After living on the Windsor estate, after living in that Royal Lodge for over 22 years, he is now, I'm told, this is how it was put to me, he is now instead a resident of Norfolk. Now, the way it's been described to me is that actually this is, in a way, the start of the move. So they've seen this as sort of the primary start of it. He's actually been moved to what they're describing as temporary accommodation. And then in further months' time, we will see him move to a more permanent residence. And there is no doubt that a big issue around that has certainly been security. They've been wanting to make sure that he is as safe as possible when he's moved on to the Sandringham estate, which is a completely different kettle of fish compared to Windsor, which is most of it behind gates or walls of some kind. Sandringham, a much larger, sprawling estate, so in a way more difficult to get on top of the issue of security. People in Norfolk are really protective of the royal family, but it's going to be interesting to see how they feel now about having Andrew Mountbatten Windsor living in their midst.
Yes, and that news came shortly after we heard from Thames Valley Police. What have they said in a statement?
So, look, we can't forget that over the weekend we've had all of those Epstein files released and all of the details that we've had within that, whether it's photos, emails. On top of that, there's also been these claims coming from lawyers over in the States. They say they're now representing a woman who claims that she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein to Raw Lodge to spend time with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and also during that time with him also was taken to have tea at Buckingham Palace. Now, we know that Republic, who are the anti-monarchy group, had reported these allegations to the Metropolitan Police. Later on today, we then heard from Thames Valley Police because, of course, the Windsor estate is within their jurisdiction. So Thames Valley Police have said, we are aware of reports about a woman said to have taken place at an address in Windsor in 2010 for sexual purposes. We're assessing the information in line with our established procedures. We take any reports of sexual crimes extremely seriously and encourage anyone with information to come forward. At this time, these allegations have not been reported to Thames Valley Police by either the lawyer or their client. And it is really important to stress that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, throughout all of this time, as we've reported on the allegations against him and his links with Jeffrey Epstein, has continued to deny any wrongdoing. However, we have not heard from him or anyone representing him over the last few days.
And we were just discussing here with Rory and Jenny, Rhiannon, that this is now very difficult for the royal family to escape the questions themselves, including for Prince Edward, as we heard earlier.
Look, I think there will be, to a degree, a sigh of relief that the King took what many saw as the ultimate action last year, completely stripping his brother of his titles, saying that he had to move out of his home on the Windsor estate, that the optics around that just couldn't continue, that he was too much of a distraction to the royal family. However, what we've seen today and what Prince Edward, Andrew's younger brother, has had to deal with is the fact that this continues to be a huge distraction when it comes to their official duties. Prince Edward, currently over in the United Arab Emirates, he was at a conference in Dubai today and he was taking part in a panel discussion, not talking specifically about Epstein, but in some ways inevitable, he was asked about Epstein and how the family have been coping with it.
I know you've put in various plans in place to move the institution forward, but how are you coping with that?
Well, with the best will in the world, I'm not sure this is the audience that is probably the least bit interested in that. So they all came here to listen to about education solving the future. But no, I think it's all really important always to remember the victims and who are the victims in all this.
And that, in a way, is the problem for both Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. All of the details that have come out over the weekend have just added to that picture around the relationship that they had with Jeffrey Epstein and the fact they continued that friendship well after he was convicted of those paedophile charges. I think it's only emboldened all of those who want to hear more from Andrew and Sarah and want them to speak more openly about what they saw and what they knew about Epstein, despite the fact that both of them have continued to deny any type of wrongdoing or any allegations against them.
Rhiannon, thank you very much indeed. Well, Rory, the questions continue. Not surprising, given both the information that we've had through on former Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, and also some of the pictures that have come through as well. But do you think the King will be deeply relieved that he took the action he did last year to remove him from, from this massive house that he's been living in for so long? Yeah,
but I think also he acted very, very well, I thought, the King. And I was just looking at the statement that came out, bearing in mind that Prince Edward today said that he brought it back to the victims and said that's the important thing. And the statement when they actually removed his honours and his titles last year, and the final statement, the final paragraph was, Their Majesty wish to make it clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. And I think that was very well said, very well put, and I think that's their genuine thought, and they're just exasperated frustrated that it just keeps coming out, and just more things like with Mandelson. You know, you think, oh, another, and what again, and again, and more and more. So I think they did what they did. They acted before this.
I think that the King's statement and also Edward's statement shows a level of emotional intelligence that Prince Andrew has never been able to show. He was given so many opportunities in that Newsnight interview to reflect for a moment on the victims, or a fact that the entire reason why this scandal was a scandal was because children had been abused, and he did not take that opportunity. He is tone deaf when it comes to that sort of thing. And equally with Mandelson, I mean, yesterday the piece that was in the Times, Katie Ball's piece in the Times, which clearly had been done as a magazine piece. He had been interviewed before. The allegations came out over the weekend, but she had rung him up to get more information from him in response to these allegations. And Mandelson said, Jeffrey Epstein is like dog mess that you step on. You just can't get the smell away from your shoe. The issue is not about the smell sticking to Peter Mandelson. It's about his poor judgment and his lack of self-awareness and his lack of insight into what this is really about, which is a paedophile who ruined the lives of women who had young girls who had absolutely no power, has been able to effectively escape justice.
And the father of 2 daughters as well. And you do feel sorry for them, and Beatrice and Eugenie, they just read day after day after day the stuff about both their parents.
Yes, indeed, so including the news that Sarah Ferguson decided to take her 2 girls to visit Jeffrey Epstein just 5 days after he was released from jail in July 2009. You've mentioned Lord Mandelson. Let's talk about that, because it's obviously not just Andrew who's been caught up in the Epstein files. Lord Mandelson is out of the House of Lords now and being investigated by police over his links with Jeffrey Epstein. His political career now seems almost certainly over. His downfall still poses a political danger to the Prime Minister. Let's get more then. Here's our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates.
Gone the first time, gone the second time, gone for good.
The Clerk of the Parliament has today received notification from Lord Mandelson of his intention to retire from the House.
Peter Mandelson has left politics and Parliament for the last time, renouncing his seat in the House of Lords rather than waiting to be kicked out. All over his repeated lack of candour about his 20-year-plus relationship with the financier and paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Are you embarrassed about Peter Mandelson's actions? Who's to blame for bringing him back?
Keir Starmer's anger heard behind these doors. Mandelson is a disgrace who let the country down, the Cabinet was told. His threat to pass a law to strip his peerage was the final straw. Fury over a relationship between Mandelson and Epstein that others were asking about in much more depth long before Keir Starmer.
In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
He was in jail at the time for soliciting prostitution from a minor.
And my knowledge of him is something that I regret. I wish I'd never met him in the first place.
But emails released by the US government over the weekend revealed there was so much more. Payments to Mandelson's husband worth thousands. There's no suggestion of wrongdoing from him. But also alleged market-sensitive intelligence passed straight to the paedophile financier within seconds of Mandelson receiving it. Condemnation from all sides.
They have made a grave error of judgment.
I think the Prime Minister himself needs to come clean and tell us what he knew and when.
It's quite outrageous, and people will be quite disgusted by it.
We shouldn't have had to wait all these months before he was able to sidle out very quietly and very disgracefully and resign without being sacked.
Downing Street has already handed over details of key emails to the police. Now Scotland Yard are looking at whether the law was broken.
The news that the police have launched a full-blown inquiry into Peter Mandelson will, incredibly, be welcomed in the building behind me, because they are desperate to take as tough a line as possible to insulate themselves from the massive fallout from the departure of Peter Mandelson. Because the charge that these guys are facing is as toxic as they come in politics, that they took a hear no evil, see no evil approach to appointing a man who has been a fixture of the Labour family for more than 4 decades.
After Prime Minister's questions, the Tories will try and force the disclosure of vetting documents prepared before Mandelson's appointment, dividing Labour MPs from number 10 in the process. The embarrassment continues. Sam Coates, Sky News, Westminster.
So we've talked about Andrew, Mountbatten, Windsor. We've talked about Peter Mandelson, and The Sun has both of them on the front page tonight, calling them Princes of Darkness, which is a strong front page, Jenny.
Yes, it absolutely is. And of course, they've both lost their titles as a consequence of their association with Epstein. But, you know, this is not going to be something that either of them can recover from, I don't think. And when you think about Mandelson and how many times he's managed to bounce back, having resigned twice and keeps coming back. And he was also giving interviews. He gave an interview to Laura Kuenssberg at the BBC. The interview that he gave to The Times was clearly as part of a PR project that he was engineering in order to rehabilitate himself and put himself back into public life. This is too much. And these allegations, potentially, they are the biggest political corruption scandal of a generation. The idea that he gave Epstein market-sensitive information that he knew about by virtue of his position in the cabinet. If those allegations prove to be true, it is absolutely inexcusable and potentially criminal.
Yeah, and having been given a third chance again in the cabinet. I was saying earlier, I mean, it's interesting that the qualities that get you into office are often the qualities that get you out of it. No, in other words, he was given the job of ambassador because he was particularly good at schmoozing, because he felt at home on those very luxurious carpets and those yachts like Deripaska and all of those. You know, that was his kind of terrain. He loved that. But he unfortunately, he loved Epstein. He couldn't help himself. Or rather, no, he did help himself. Again and again. 75,000. Nice if you can get it, Anna. I doubt you get that in a month.
He denies wrongdoing, of course. He suggests he was too trusting in an interview with The Times that you referenced. The Daily Mirror features this inexcusable, they say, anger at Mandelson grows, because there's three issues today for him. One, a criminal probe has been investigated into these allegations of leaking sensitive, market-sensitive information and private information when he was Business Secretary under Gordon Brown. The second thing, of course, is that he's quit the House of Lords, a lot of pressure on that. And the third is why and how he actually got the role of US ambassador. And that is what will now fall at the door of Keir Starmer being pushed, Rory, by the Conservatives tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it is bizarre. You think, well, why? Did he have a sort of, what was it, Liam Neeson said, a particular set of skills? But I think, you know, I mean, what did he say? Before he was appointed, he'd said about Trump. I mean, Mandelson had said that Trump was a white supremacist, that he was a danger to the world, I think, and they still appointed him. But I think it was a rushed process. They went for a political appointment. Mandelson came through, and I think his friends got a story into the Times to say Peter Mandelson had been appointed, and it was kind of just done overnight. It was too late for Downing Street to deny that somebody they were thinking of appointing was appointed.
Well, let's take a step back, shall we, now, in this complicated story, sex scandal at the heart of it, obviously. Jeffrey Epstein was clearly an arch networker, pulling the strings of the rich and the powerful. And as part of our trawl through the millions of files released by the US Justice Department on Friday, we found this audio file in which Epstein can be heard coaching someone on how to approach Russia's Vladimir Putin.
I would send a note to Putin, saying, I'm going to leave government in March 14th. I'm going to be in Scandinavia, or I plan to be in Northern Europe. We should have dinner. That's it. No more. It has to be very short.
So, a power broker, clearly influential, but was anybody or any nation pulling Epstein's strings? Well, the Kremlin has denied any link, but not everyone is convinced. Let's show you this, shall we? This is from the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Today, he said more and more leads, more and more information and more commentary in the global press all relate to the suspicion that this unprecedented paedophilia scandal was co-organised by Russian intelligence services. A really strong statement for him. He's launched an investigation into possible links with the KGB and investigations into the Polish women that may have been involved. There's suggestions that somebody in the city of Krakow in the southern part of Poland was in communication with Epstein about women and girls. I mean, there are many who went out there were Eastern European and indeed Russian as well.
Yeah. This is the other layer, isn't it, of the story? I mean, so we've talked about the trafficked girls, we've talked about Prince Andrew, about the political leaking, but this Russian angle is particularly interesting. 1,000 documents about Putin in the release files, 9,000 or 10,000 about Moscow. As you said, these Russian women, which seem particularly easy to get. And where does Epstein's money come from? I mean, there's vast amounts of money. The FBI said that the FBI said that Epstein was Putin's wealth advisor. Clearly, the other documents have come out that Epstein was desperately trying to get in touch with Putin all the time. But I think this is another angle that will come out of the story.
Yeah, the KGB is now the FSB, but some of this even dates to when Putin was Prime Minister and not President. He came back to being President, didn't he, later? But actually, Ivor Bennett, our Moscow correspondent, has delved into some of this, and the files show that actually Epstein was desperate to meet Putin, and it seems he did not meet Putin. But clearly this is, investigation that Tusk thinks is worth talking about. He even mentions how Epstein had access to these large tranche of unexplained wealth.
It is extraordinary. And when you think about the kinds of conspiracy theories that many people scoff at, the kind of QAnon conspiracy theories about paedophile networks of the rich and powerful passing information, money and children around, it seemed ridiculous. And yet, here we have something that there may be a grain of truth in it. We don't know. What we do know from listening to that audio file is the way that Jeffrey Epstein desperately sought to cultivate these relationships with extremely powerful people. We can at least take that from this. He was just desperate to get his tentacles into as many different areas of power as possible. And there's a desperation in those files that Sky News has analysed. There's a desperation, a kind of unrequited love between him and Putin.
Yes.
Does this not all have the hallmarks of a huge blackmailing plot? I mean, all these people, prime ministers, presidents...
Who's taking the photos and why are the photos being taken?
What's that? It's a Russian word, isn't it? Compromat, isn't it? It's compromising material.
Yes. I think it's becoming clear that this is a scandal about women and girls. It is also a scandal of power, influence and money, and that is no doubt
why it's important, I mean, on so many levels.
Yeah, and why so many in America have demanded the release of these files, obviously. Coming up next, though, we will move away from what has really been dominating the news agenda since the release on Friday, and tell you more about a government pledge that 3 in 4 people diagnosed with cancer will be cancer-free or living well after 5 years. That's to come in just a moment.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live.
They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist. Ed Conway. Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
Well, we will bring you tomorrow's newspapers in just a moment. First of all, the government has tonight unveiled a pledge that 3 in 4 people diagnosed with cancer from 2035 will be cancer-free or living well with it after 5 years. The new 10-year plan to tackle the disease aims to turn around survival rates, which are currently worse for some types of cancer than they are in places like Romania and Poland. Well, the Health Minister, Ashley Dalton, told Sky News that the ambition to improve cancer treatment drove her to a career in politics.
My cancer has been absolutely fundamental to the work that I've done in government and in Parliament as a whole. It's one of the things that drove me to stand for Parliament in the first place, not just my own cancer, but my daughter's dad was diagnosed with incurable kidney cancer 6 months after my primary breast cancer diagnosis. So I knew then that we had to do something to improve faster diagnosis rates and to improve treatment for people, not only through cancer but after cancer. Fundamentally, what this cancer plan will do is revolutionise the way that we treat cancer in this country and really put patients right at the very heart of it. That's been my fundamental ambition.
Well, with the UK falling behind European countries on some cancer treatment, our health correspondent Ashish Joshi travelled to Denmark to find out how they have successfully improved their survival rates.
The UK is not alone in the challenges being posed by cancer, but other countries are achieving better results.
Welcome to a cold morning in Copenhagen.
In the 1990s, cancer survival rates in Denmark lagged behind many of its neighbours. But 25 years ago, they made cancer a political and health priority. And it's worked. Peter is 69. He's been diagnosed with bowel cancer. He's undergoing a month-long training regime before his operation after an AI algorithm picked him out of thousands of patients.
His complication risk drops tremendously from the 35% to below 20%. So a very considerable reduction in the complication risk.
He's been targeted.
He's been targeted.
Because of his age, comorbidities.
Exactly.
Because of his physical condition.
Yes, exactly.
Like the NHS, Denmark provides state-funded healthcare which is free at the point of use. But long waits are almost unheard of. And here, their cancer survival rates have also been improving.
Man heler bedre. Jo bedre din kondition jo bedre heler du, og jo hurtigere heler du.
But Denmark didn't just have one successful cancer plan. Over the past 25 years, it's had 5. They started by improving patient care and saving lives. Now, they're looking at how to give their patients a second chance at life after their cancer.
Ambitious, has to be said, given the waiting times people suffer in this country to get any form of treatment. But the government's setting itself all sorts of targets, the long-term one, as we heard there, but also one by 2029, committed to meet 3 NHS cancer waiting time targets, which have not been met since 2014. There is a mountain to climb for this.
There is, and this news, which is about a target, 75% of people surviving, as opposed to what the current target, which is 60%, is based on quite a few things that sound quite high-tech and futuristic, like robot surgeries, genomic testing, specialist cancer centres for rare cancers, and that's all great, but we have to actually look at what's happening in the present. We need to have quicker diagnostic centres open for longer. We need to not have an NHS that's on its knees, where people can't get an appointment to see their GP quickly, where people feel that then it's not an imposition to go and see their GP. There are many different reasons why we have cancer rates for some diseases that are worse than countries that are significantly less wealthy than we are. It has to be looked at in the round, and it's not just a futuristic solution that's going to get us to this target.
There's a couple of points. I mean, actually, often people are scared about AI and saying it's going to take over jobs. Actually, AI in medical terms is actually a tremendous advancement. So, you know, particular cardiac cancer can be compared instantly with a cancer in Japan or whatever that's been successfully treated. So that's a good thing. These targets, as you say, they are very, very ambitious. I mean, I've often wondered why it's not possible to, you know, the MRI scanners that they have, to run those over 24 hours. For example, it's like, you know, like EasyJet and other airlines, you know, they have flights at sort of 3:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So if you were offered a cancer diagnosis or an MRI scan in 3 weeks' time, or next week at 2:45 in the morning, you go for the next week because you want to get it as early as possible.
People have to staff it.
Of course. Yeah, that's my point. Yeah, that's right. That's how naive I am.
It's like the Nightingale hospitals in COVID. Yeah. They couldn't get the staff to go in them.
Of course. I mean, you know, because I haven't thought this through quite clearly. But it would be if you could do that. I mean, that's what you'd want to do, isn't it? But I mean, lifestyle is a key with cancer. I mean, again and again. I mean, like if you're in your 50s or 60s. Get a colonoscopy if it's still it's lifestyle, and colonoscopy and prostate, again, which we'll talk. It's always in the news about getting a PSA test or even a prostate MRI. But colonoscopy, prostate and heart. Those are the 3 things, and you can have them checked out. And lifestyle, you know, we know about eating and alcohol alcohol and smoking are still 2 of the 3 biggest factors in cancer.
Yeah, well, even then we've had a massive debate about whether there should be a national screening programme for prostate, and in the end, it comes down to money, does it not?
And while you have it, it's great. There are organisations like Maggie's, and Laura Lee has been quoted in this. A lot of friends have been referred to Maggie's, which is out there for people who are coming to terms with cancer, and they're a wonderful, wonderful organisation, and they hold your hand through the whole process.
Absolutely. Should we have a look at the front pages, all of them now? Let us kick off then with the Times. You can see it there anyway. The revelation. Oh, we've moved on already. The Daily Telegraph. This is Gordon Brown accusing Number 10 of a cover-up. Gordon Brown, of course, appointed Lord Mandelson, as he was then, into the House of Lords in 2008 and then made him Business Secretary. To the Financial Times, then, it carries news that the Met Police is launching a full criminal investigation into Peter Mandelson over allegations of misconduct in public office. The Guardian also leading on the Met Police investigation into Mandelson allegedly leaking Downing Street emails and market-sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson facing a full criminal investigation is the headline for The Times, with that picture again. Police investigate Mandelson after Number 10 hands over their own Epstein dossier, is the front page of The Eye, while the Daily Mail reports that the criminal investigation follows more damning revelations, while the Tory leader piles pressure on the Prime Minister. The Metro goes with Mandelson stepping down from the House of Lords before the government brings in legislation to strip him of his title, with the headline, "Oh Lord." Daily Star has Peter Mandelson saying that he's let the country down. Inexcusable is the front page of the Mirror. They say anger at Mandelson continues to grow. The Express leads on Prince Edward urging people to remember the victims of paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And The Sun then reporting Andrew Mountbatten Windsor left Royal Lodge in the night alongside Mandelson's resignation, and they've gone with the headline, Princes of Darkness. all of the newspapers then leading on the fallout from the Epstein files, predominantly about Peter Mandelson. But let's move on right now and head to Iran. Another small story. US shoots down an Iranian drone heading for the aircraft carrier. The Americans, Jenny, saying that it was acting aggressively. The Iranians saying they lost contact with the drone. But it shows the tensions, especially when you get an aircraft carrier strike group in the area. You've got recon planes and all sorts of other aircraft in the vicinity now to keep the pressure on what the Iranians might do next and whether there's a deal on the nuclear issue.
Yes, escalations there. And the thing about Donald Trump is you never know if it's brinkmanship or if he's actually going to do something, because here in his second term, he's done some stuff that nobody expected. He promised help for the Iranian people. This help seems to be in focusing on their nuclear program, which supposedly he had already wiped out previously. But now that seems to be the focus, which I'm not sure how that would help the protesters. It would help Donald Trump in his ambitions and his desire to curtail Iranian power, but not the protesters. But yes, this is just the latest step in the escalation of tensions.
Yes, unless, what are their other options? A bit of regime change, but I think it won't be as easy as it was in Venezuela, which was a remarkable expedition that they did. Or the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, they'd be extremely difficult to turn them against the regime, you'd imagine. So, I don't know. I think Trump will do Trump will do anything that he thinks can be a success instantly, and that's not a given in Iran.
Well, we're in this hiatus, are we not? But it sounds like war games already. The Iranian Shahed 139 was flying towards the USS Abraham Lincoln and was hit by an F-35 jet. I mean, the toys are in the theatre of war already, aren't they?
The weirdest thing about that I heard about Iran was that when they switched off the internet during the protests, the number of social media posts about Scottish independence disappeared.
That's very interesting, isn't it?
I know, so somebody in Iran is posting a lot about Scottish independence.
Wow.
So any fault lines
is another story, isn't it?
Any fault lines in British,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go to another conflict, shall we? This is Ukraine. Putin on the verge of a historic victory if Trump pushes for the Ukraine peace deal, because we know that on the table is Russia taking the entirety of the Donbass, a section of which, obviously, they have not won and are absolutely critical to Ukraine for the future defence of much of the rest of their territory.
Yes, we know that Donald Trump is not patient, as we know about Iran, and of course particularly with Ukraine, which he promised to end this war on day one of his presidency. There was supposed to be a ceasefire, and Zelensky today saying that it seems that Putin has used this in order to rearm, in order to target Ukraine. It is -20 in Ukraine. Their energy infrastructure has been targeted, lots and lots of people without power. Mark Galeotti, a big expert on Russia, has written this piece basically saying that, if this peace deal goes through, it will be an entire victory for Putin. It's what he's been waiting for so long. Putin has played Trump like a fiddle, I would say.
We know that.
But also the disregard for life, Russian life as well. In Putin, I mean, Putin is chucking soldiers at around 1,000 a week. They reckon, but something like 1.2 million casualties, over 300,000 deaths, and they are gaining territory at 70 metres a day. I mean, and they've already been fighting for longer than they have in the Second World War. It's just extraordinary. Exactly. For what? For a greater Russia.
We're coming up to the 4th anniversary, aren't we, of that conflict, which is quite extraordinary when you think about how it started, that it's gone on for so long and had such a big impact on, what's happened there, but all our energy bills, cost of living, inflation, the seismic ripple of that war is still being felt, I think.
Let's see if Trump can bring peace. I love peace.
Another conflict.
They gave me the FIFA Peace Prize. They don't just hand those out.
We talked about that last night with Yalda's interview with Gianni Infantino, as we said.
Well, he had a board of peace, didn't he? Maybe he is board of peace. That's why he's going to attack Iran next week.
It's cost
I'm bored of peace.
$1 billion to join, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Lots more still to come in the next part of our newspapers. Taking a look at more of the day's stories, the inside pages.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual. Mornings with Richard Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
So continuing our look at what is making the newspapers, two linked stories now. One is in the Daily Telegraph. Jenny, why don't you kick off with this? We can't trust big tech to put our children first. This is the great debate about what to do, about social media, you know, and all other matters. And then we connect it to the Eye, which has now decided to bring in a ban, or it's facing a ban for under-16s using social media. So why don't you just sort of pick your way through them if you don't mind. Do all the work.
I'll do all the work for you. Don't worry, that's what I'm here for, Anna. There has been this kind of sea change, hasn't there? It feels like the pendulum has swung. And you have Baroness Cass here, who, of course, led the Cass Review into transgender medicine among children. She's saying that you can't trust big tech to put children first. I mean, of course we can't. She said the Prime Minister should scrap the consultation. There's currently a consultation of whether or not children under 16 should be able to use social media and just get on with the ban. Meanwhile, we see from the Eye, Spain is planning to ban social media for those aged under 16. And it is interesting because I see, my son is 12, he's just started at secondary school, and a lot of his friends have brick phones. We all just assume, oh, children need phones and children need smartphones, but I think that's because adults feel that they need to track children through their phones. And actually, you can have a brick phone where your parents can call you and see where you... Well, my son is not experiencing this pressure, and I do feel that actually that there is much less of an expectation that everybody is going to be on a particular app and that everybody is going to be doing something. And we know that these social media sites that use algorithms to try and suck your attention into them are particularly dangerous.
And there's court cases that started last week in America, which basically said it's a defective product, which is addictive, created to be addictive, like opioids and tobacco, which is going to be very interesting to see how that develops.
And particularly for neurodiverse children as well, particularly, I mean, my case of ADHD, because they are monetised on distracting you all the time. They're constantly distracted.
Getting that dopamine hit.
That thing as well. I mean, I'd be in favour of a social media ban for American presidents over 79.
And just very quickly, vote on under 16 ban, yes or no?
I would say yes, but we should just make it go out of fashion anyway, so we don't need to ban it.
Yeah, like alcohol. Or drink driving, rather.
That was a story from earlier. Let's go to the Eye. Birmingham Tories want Osbourne. The leader of the local Conservative council group in Birmingham has asked former X Factor judge Sharon Osbourne to help clean up Birmingham and stand in the local elections in May. What's she going to do about the bin strike and the rats? That's what I want to know.
Me.
I was in Birmingham for the Birmingham Literary Festival in the autumn, and there's a huge statue of Ozzy Osbourne. He's a kind of god there, and so in his absence, here she is.
Yeah, well, talking of the Osbournes, we have a long-lost tape of Ozzy Osbourne, which was left in an attic, would you believe, for more than 45 years. It's been unearthed and played out loud for the first time. Well, Sky News was there to hear it for the first time. So have a look at this from our entertainment reporter, Gemma Peplow.
Have you ever found something you forgot you had? This guy found a tape given to him by Ozzy Osbourne about 45 years ago.
That's him.
What you're listening to is an old tape recording of Ozzy Osbourne, but how did we get the chance to hear it played? As a reporter, I covered Ozzy's Back to the Beginning gig in July and the sad news of his death just a few weeks later. I then received an intriguing email from a man saying that heavy metal pioneer had left him a tape which he'd never listened to and asking if I'd like to hear it. That man was called David Jolly, known as Chabby. He remembered spending time with Ozzy in the year after he was fired from Black Sabbath in 1979, when he spent a few weeks rehearsing in Suffolk with some new bandmates, Randy Rhoads and Bob Daisley. This was a make-or-break point in Ozzy's life and career.
Nobody knew at that time whether the Ozzy solo career was going to be something that was going to be successful or not, and I think there were probably a lot of people that didn't have particularly high expectations.
I just absolutely love this sort of attic raid, and I was a bit behind on the Black Sabbath experience that he'd, you know, helped co-found the band in 1968, you know, loads of hit records, etc., but then was fired in 1979 due to his problems with alcohol and other drugs. And this is the bit after, you know, in the 80s, the relaunch moment. So what an important tape that was.
I have to say, I have at home, I have about 600 tapes, which I won't throw out because they're like religious artefacts to me, but I would not invite a crew from Sky News over to play one of them because I would be convinced that it would jam and shred. I haven't listened to them since the 90s.
Yeah, I've still got my old ones as well.
Yeah, we've just found a whole load of Percy Fender, who was the England, a legendary, extraordinary character in the world of cricket, and he was at the heart of the Bodyline tour in Australia. And in his garage are these old tapes, and we're hoping to make a documentary about Percy Fender, this remarkable character in cricket. So, as you say, attic tapes and garage tapes. You don't know what's there.
Well, invite us and we'll get them played gently and they won't snap, you know, because we all tape.
Old tapes of Richie Beno saying, morning, everyone. Here's some remarkable footage from Percy Fender.
Yeah. There'll be people at home who won't know what we're talking about with a tape like that. But anyway, it was old technology back in the day.
You're on Sky, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Where would cricket be without Sky?
Exactly. Rory, Bremner, Jenny Kleeman, thank you very much indeed. I think it's your first time here. It's been an absolute pleasure. Come again, please. Coming up, though, we move on to Arsenal, not cricket. How they moved a step closer to winning their first major trophy for 6 years. There's a fresh look to your news from 10 on Sky News.
It's a new show called The Wrap, every night of the week.
We'll still bring you the day's biggest stories,
but with more lively debate,
more in-depth commentary,
and more of what you need to know.
Plus a look at what's making tomorrow's headlines.
The Wrap.
Everything wrapped up for you from 10 on Sky News.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling. War, unrest, revolutions.
It's not his country, it's ours.
They have succeeded for the first time in their country's history in removing a leader from power.
No freedom!
Sky News, the full story first. There was fighting here, but there's clearly now a lull, and they're using it to bring up more ammunition. This is a mass exodus in which Russia is hemorrhaging some of its brightest and its best. According to the local weather channel, there have been more than 2,500 lightning strikes and flash flooding, all on top of this week's lethal tornado. What stays with you most in this job is some of the people you meet. What is your worst fear about what the Russians want to do to the children?
They're just boosting demographics by stealing young people.
Would you like to take the opportunity, Mr. President, on Sky News to invite Barack Obama to come here? Mr. Trump, are you running for president? Can you confirm it?
We're going to take a look, a very serious look.
On that day, we saw your fighters killing women, killing children. Was that a mistake? Did you go too far? You couldn't control your fighters? The full force of the state is being used to crush any protest. Free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in. Another alarm. The mood here is jittery and nervous. We're seeing the world get more and more divided, and it's our job to try to make sense of it all.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today.
Congratulations, this is a huge moment.
But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra al-Baghir has this report, and this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Well, it's time for the very latest sport now. Here is Mark.
Perfect, thank you very much.
A footballer's life is all about moving. I never had a problem with that because I was the one that was progressing in my football career.
The Crazy Gang's welcoming committee were making sure their new arrival enjoyed a warm welcome.
I'd had a small arthroscopy operation, and at that particular time there was a lot of clubs interested in me.
But in a last-minute twist, Wimbledon learned John Hartson would not be moving as Spurs.
John Hartson was last week tipped to be on his way across South London for £5 million. That seems a dead deal.
I don't want to do any more medicals, to be honest.
I can't pass a medical because of this knee.
A downbeat John Hartson was rushed out of Ibrox today, having been given the worst possible news.
We did not believe he was at the correct fitness at that particular time to go straight into Champions League.
Very seldom you see a player in the building walking around at a club and the deal isn't done.
I'm starting to question myself. I'm starting to think, well, where do I go from here?
The best medical he ever failed. I knew about his injuries, but that didn't matter to me because I think John had played 20 consecutive games for Coventry.
I was going to an absolute giant in Celtic Football Club.
Another season, another club for John Hartson.
So I've proved that my knee's fine and my fitness is good.
This was my complete say. I think he wanted to prove his fitness, and I think he wanted to prove Rangers wrong.
And here's Hartson!
Celtic fans hold John in the highest regard.
Incredible 7-0.
Celtic Football Club, to me, is a very special place.
These are the two strikers that have grabbed George Graham's eye, and at quite a cost. John Hartson, the teenager, arrives at Highbury in return for a cheque to the tune of £2.5 million.
It's just brilliant for me, it's just a dream come true really to come to a club as big as Arsenal.
A lot of my career I've moved around. When you get offered to go and sign for big clubs, a footballer's life is all about moving and, resettling, but I never had a problem with that. I went to Luton at 16 on a YTS scheme, progressed, and there was quite a few clubs interested in me at that time.
It's just a new start for me, I've just got to start fresh and just perhaps show people, what I can do.
I had 2 great years at Arsenal. They bid £2.5 million, which was a British teenage transfer record at the time.
He was bought for a certain part of the team, a more physical side. By the way, how good was he in the air? We were good at set pieces, and long throws, and that's what John was fantastic at. In out-and-out 9, that's exactly what John was.
Arsene, this way, please.
Arsene Wenger came in, and I
Well, Mark, thank you. That was The Wrap. Thanks so much for watching. All the top stories coming up for you in the Midnight News, the very latest on Lord Mandelson and also Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, who has left Royal Lodge this evening.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think? It's really unusual.
Mornings with Rich and Frost.
Let's crack on. Let's get started.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'll take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live.
They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist. Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is. First off, just the scale of what we're looking at. Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.